Coming up on News 2, the Juan Luis Hospital board met on Monday. Meanwhile, a lawyer prepares a presentation to avoid decertification. We'll have an update. Plus, why the BOC director says all corrections facilities across the territory are on lockdown. Also, the next step for the Army Corps of Engineers is to complete a biological assessment of the environmental impacts. Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing, topping our newscast tonight. As News 2 reported Monday, Juan Luis Hospital's board met for the first time in more than a year on Monday. The Senate's approval of two nominees to the board provided the quorum needed to hold a meeting. The board wasted no time in approving changes that would help the hospital possibly avoid decertification by CMS. News 2's Erica Parsons has more.
The two new board members appointed to Juan Luis Hospital's governing body will help make the case with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS.
This is going to begin to resolve many of the deficiencies that have led to CMS's intervention.
One of the areas CMS found JFL to be deficient in was the lack of a governing body to oversee the hospital. That and a number of other conditions led to their decision to terminate the CMS contract effective October 9th. The legal team of Ropes and Gray hired to help the hospital avoid decertification told board members Monday they'll be able to put a plan of correction in the federal agency's hands by Wednesday and make a formal presentation in Baltimore Friday.
We will be meeting with CMS on Friday, and at that time we'll present this corrective action plan along with other significant measures that the hospital and the central government, legislator, and Delegate Christensen have all taken to demonstrate that the hospital has achieved substantial compliance.
Ropes and Gray also has to show that JFL and the government will be able to keep up the improvements, but it will all come at a pretty price tag. The legal fees for Ropes and Gray services could run as high as $175,000. The board also approved a number of contracts that would provide software and services necessary to bring JFL in line with hospital standards, and officials say up to $10 million is needed to address the deficiencies found by CMS. Erica Parsons, News 2.
Hospital officials will use bond proceeds to fund some of the contracts. During Monday's meeting, the board also voted to approve a $300,000 annual contract for Dr. Kendall Griffith as Juan F. Luis CEO. Governor Jongh sent the health insurance contracts for government employees and retirees to the Senate Monday without his signature and more than $6 million over budget. That's what he received just hours before from the government's health insurance board. The Cigna insurance policy expires at midnight, but the board had refused to budge on the costs for coverage, which exceeds the government's allotment. The health insurance board also voted not to negotiate an extension with Cigna. The governor said that he will sign the plan if the Senate is able to find the extra money to fund the policy. Senators are currently meeting today. They met today to finalize the fiscal year 15 budget. A lesson outside the classroom, meanwhile, at the Senate. Two students who had the opportunity to work as pages at the Legislature, Candace Bryan, a senior at St. Peter and Paul, and Wilbur Williams, also a senior at St. Peter and Paul, were introduced by Senator Sean Michael Malone, who shared a little bit about how the Legislature worked and some words of wisdom.
I say to every page that come before that has the opportunity to come and work with us, that we are like your teachers. We touch every aspect of life in the Virgin Islands. All the bills that we pass, especially today's session, which has the bills that fund the operating budget of the Virgin Islands, that just not only funds government agencies that provide very critical services to the people of the territory, we also fund a number of nonprofit organizations who also provide very important services to our community. You had the opportunity and privilege to be a page at a session where the impact is having a direct, what we do is having a direct and immediate impact on the lives of everyone in the Virgin Islands. So ask lots of questions. Do not hesitate to approach any senator and If you have any questions about anything, do not, don't feel free to ask, hesitate to ask, excuse me. No question is a dumb question. Sometimes the process can be a little confusing for some people, but this is a very important session and there's a lot to be learned, and it's a great opportunity, I think, for you as young future adults who will hopefully become very productive citizens in the Virgin Islands will have an opportunity to understand how and why things happen here in our home. Once again, welcome to the Legislature, and we're very, very happy to have you both. You both may be seated at this time.
Then right after that, they got right down to business, and we'll have more on Wednesday's newscast. Now, last week, we reported on the views of a representative from the Animal Welfare Institute against Coral World's proposed dolphin habitat. This time, we hear from Coral World staff who offer an interesting take on animals like dolphins in human care.
With the rising debate on Coral World's proposed dolphin facility, animal trainers like Christine Funk find themselves drawn into the issue. In the wake of films like Blackfish and protesters condemning animal captivity, animal trainers like Christine are reluctant to share their story, one that's quite different from recent media portrayals.
Our animals are our most important thing. They're like our children. Animals they're big. I'm not going to force him to do anything, because that's going to deteriorate trust as it does in humans.
For the past 3 years, Christine has been working with Franco, a 10-year-old 600-pound South American sea lion. She and other trainers use their psychology background to interact with the animals they consider their babies.
We are able to look at our animals on a daily basis and get to know them so well that we can see their behaviors and how they change. We know how we can train them effectively. Each animal is an individual. They all have individual personalities.
Trainers say animals actually survive and live longer in human care than out in the wild.
Predators, having to hunt for their own food, and also genetic disorders.
Franco, for example, has cataracts, a normal occurrence for sea lions. Christine says if Franco was released in the wild, it is unlikely he'll survive. As for concerns that the dolphin habitat might degrade the water quality, workers at Coral Bay say having the dolphins here could actually amp up efforts to improve water quality on Water Bay.
Make sure that, number one, our dolphins are being well taken care of. But really, what we want to do is ensure that we do everything we can to make sure that everyone surrounding Water Bay is helping keep that water clean.
Help you to appreciate the wild, and if you villainize these parks and zoos and aquariums, that message isn't getting out there.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
And News 2 will keep you updated on the status of the dolphin habitat. In other news, all corrections facilities across the territory are on lockdown, canceling out all scheduled programs and visitation at the facilities. BOC's Director Julius Wilson said, in seeking to further comply with the settlement agreement by increasing the officer-to-inmate ratio, BOC inmates must be transferred to the United States. Wilson said the staffing numbers poses a potential security and safety issue for inmates and personnel. The criteria for prisoners selected included time left on sentence, conduct, and general management. Now, inmates from St. Thomas are also being transferred as a result of behavioral and management concerns. At this time, only inmates' relatives will receive notification and contact information following the arrival, processing, and placement of those transferred. Turn our attention overseas. Police were searching for a shooter who immediately fled after a high school shooting in Louisville, Kentucky today. One child has been injured at Fern Creek Traditional High School, and the school had been evacuated. School officials say the school went into lockdown. In other news, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has confirmed the first patient to accidentally carry Ebola to the United States has been diagnosed at a hospital in Dallas. 4 other people with Ebola, all medical volunteers, have been evacuated to the U.S. for treatment, but this is the first case in a traveler. The patient is at a Dallas hospital. The CDC said it would release more details later. Keeping our eye on the economy, at a conference in San Francisco, Microsoft provided a glimpse of its new operating system, Windows 10. The tech giant decided to skip 9 after its current version, Windows 8, received mixed reviews. Windows 10 will be released next year. Here's a look at the New York Stock Exchange with our Stock Market Watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all down. The Dow 28, Nasdaq 12, S&P 5. Coming up on News 2, much more, the Virgin Islands welcome back Elisa Thomas back home to open arms, big balloons, flowers, and a huge celebration. Details coming up next. The St. Thomas St. John Board of Elections suspended one of their members, Wilma Marsh Monsanto, for willfully causing a delay in the certification of the primary elections. This decision was brought about via a resolution in a meeting they had on Monday afternoon. Marsh Monsanto did not participate in the late efforts to certify the primaries on August 18th and 19th, which drew criticism from board members. Marsh Monsanto is suspended from Board of Elections activities until November 15th. News 2 will keep you updated. Meanwhile, Sunday, October 5th is the last day to register if you plan to vote in the general election. The elections offices will be extending their voter registration hours all this week. On St. Croix from Monday to Friday, office hours will be extended from 5 to 7 p.m. On Saturday, October 4th and Sunday, October 5th, the St. Croix office will be open from noon to 3 p.m. for residents to register to vote. The St. John office is adding an extra day to accommodate voters. The office will be open Fridays from 8:30 to 2 p.m. in addition to the regular Tuesday and Thursday schedule. The West Indian Company, or WICO, will be managing Havenside Mall for the next 5 years. This is according to a release by Governor Jongh, who announced the signing of the agreement at Government House. Havenside Mall has been owned by GERS since 1993, and since that time, WICO has been managing the mall on a month-to-month contract until this recent signing of a long-term agreement.
We've been waiting for this for more than 4 years, and we are extremely pleased that Governor Jongh was able to get these things done. For the Havenside Mall, this means continuity. We can today begin to plan our future.
As a result of this, we're doing a number of things with respect to looking at the new dock facility on St. Thomas and analyzing the feasibility of that, but at the same time beginning to dredge in partnership with the Port Authority for additional looking at the growth in cruise ship activity.
If you haven't converted your home to Innovative's new EVO network, now is the time to do it. Innovative's new fiber network is available throughout most of the territory, and existing customers are urged to contact the office to schedule the installation. Officials say the new EVO network will improve the quality and reliability of telephone, cable, and internet services. The upgrade means internet speeds of 10 gigabytes and higher. Customers in EVO-ready areas who have not converted after numerous attempts will be disconnected after a certain period. The entire network must be converted by the second quarter of 2015. The EVO team can be reached at 774-2000. Information is also available online at www.innovativevi.net. Innovative is the parent company of CBS TV2. Well, Miss UVI, Elisa Thomas, returned to St. Thomas a winner of the National Black College Alumni Hall of Fame crown. In Atlanta, the competition took place at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Now, Thomas is the first UVI queen to return with the Miss NBCA Hall of Fame title. So history in the making right there. She competed in the preliminary events at the College Queens competition last week, beginning on September 24th. She also won the hats and heels segment of the competition. UVI students, faculty, and staff welcomed her back to the territory on Monday afternoon at the Cyril Lee King Airport. Elisa was treated to flowers, some band music, and a huge welcome home. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.